Hello everybody and welcome back to another YouTube video. My name is Kayla Rundle and I finally finished all the labor involved to shave my engine bay on my 1987 BMW E30, and these are the final results. It obviously does not run yet, and right now it has a mock bucket, but if you guys are not familiar with what a shaved engine bay is, that means that you technically shave and get rid of all of the accessories, brackets, and anything that is not necessary in the engine bay, and in turn have to custom and repaint that all. Typically, shaved engine bays are also paired with a full wire tuck. First things first, you do have to remove the engine, harness, entire subframe, anything that you do not plan on painting, and it is easier to get all this stuff out of the way in order to access all the areas in the car that you will be shaving and doing body work on. The body work is definitely a dirty, long process. It took me over a month and a half to get the engine shave completely finished and over 2 months to completely clear out the vehicle inside and out to do this process. Obviously, in my last video, I did a full undercarriage refresh, so I did end up dropping the front and rear subframes as well to paint the entire undercarriage. After you get everything out of the car, you'll notice that there will be a lot of seam sealer on all of the edges and basically the entire firewall. Any seams of the engine bay is covered in the nasty seam sealer that was originally sprayed when the car was created. To get rid of this, it is a long process. I know a lot of people sand the cars out to get sandblasted, but I was working in specific areas. The car was already painted, so I used a cobalt straight 90-degree die grinder. You can see how demolished all the wires is on this wire wheel. I went through quite a few of these wire wheels in the process, probably about 10 of them. When it comes down to welding the new panels, any seam sealer on the front or back of the panels will light on fire and will make the welds dirty. So you have to get rid of as many of it as possible.
You say I make you nervous, a tragedy, I'm a beautiful disaster, a reckoning, you wonder how I got this way. You think I'm someone to be saved, someone to clean up and tame. Oh, some things never change, never change. Oh. You think I would look pretty on your arm once you cover up my bruises and battle scars, but it always ends the same. Can't bear the things I've had to face, got you crying on your knees in pain. Oh, some things never change, never change. Oh, you'll break your back to make me feel again, suffocate to make me breathe again, lose your mind from endless pain. Some things never change, never change. Oh, redemption ever came. I stopped asking for forgiveness, cause you should know only fools tread where the...
Since I did drop the front and rear subframe, I actually ended up painting the front and rear subframe, which my goal was to do a retro wave late 80s, early 90s theme with the blue, yellows, and pinks. So I just used Rust-Oleum. You guys can get this from any store. It's a gloss protective enamel, and I got the poppy pink color. I also used the wire wheel die grinder and completely cleaned it up nearly to bare metal and used self-etching primer before I used the paint. Obviously, the engine bay has lots of holes and disgusting OEM stock panels all over the place, and to cover these up, I did end up ordering panels so I did not have to cut them myself. Saved me several hours of time and ended up being around the same cost as it would have costed me to go to the store and buy metal and cut it and buy new wheels for my angle grinder. Anyways, I got these panels from this place called Rage It Parts. They fit really great other than in the very front of the vehicle by the bumper, since I have an OEM bumper. It was tough to slide on, but everything else lined up absolutely perfect. Before welding on these panels, I did go grab a bottle of SEM zinc weld. This is a weldable primer, which is really nice. I used the zinc weld primer on the front and back of the Rage It Parts panels along with the stock chassis that I was going to weld the Rage It Parts panels on top of. This is so that there will not be any bare metal on the car or on the panels whatsoever, because any raw metal surfaces that I will not be painting later in the process that are kind of tucked in its own cave in the chassis, these will actually rust, and they could rust all the way through ruining your paint job down the road. So this is a good way to protect those places that you will not be able to reach later on. For the welding process, I did have my friend Matt from Matt's Industries come over. He owns a welding and industry company out here in Phoenix, Arizona, and he welds insanely good. All of the seam sealer was not off the chassis, and the welds literally ended up with no popcorn, no holes in it whatsoever for how dirty the material he was welding. It was quite impressive, honestly, so I'm really glad I did not take on that process by myself. He came over, helped me, and I was able to learn the entire process. He brought over a nice welding machine and welded on all the panels. Be careful to watch out for any fires especially on the other side of the firewall for those rear panels in the back, because your carpet can catch on fire. So definitely recommend 2 people at once when you guys are welding, along with the seam sealer in the wheel wells that also tended to catch on fire with the welds. So try to get rid of as much of that seam sealer and remove carpets if you can from the interior to avoid any fires in the future. Once those panels are welded in, I do recommend getting an angle grinder, which I have the Cobalt Tools angle grinder. This thing was awesome. I got new wheels for it. Matt actually gave these to me. This is what they look like. They're kind of worn down for me, sorry, on the front and back. They ripped through all the welds in no time. I was doing 90-degree angles on all of like the inner frame of the car to make a nice 90-degree edge and smooth out the welds, along with grinding out all the welds on every single corner that we put the panels in, so it looks nice, smooth, and shaved for the shaved engine bay. When I was grinding down these panels, I wanted to get them as smooth as possible, so when I did lay the body filler on top of those panels, that I could use as a very little body filler as possible. If you use too much body filler, I believe they only recommend 1/8 of an inch thick of body filler. If you don't have to use it at all, that's great, but I obviously had to. Doing pretty aggressive body work, and I don't have the time to make the welds absolutely perfect. You want to use as little as body primer as possible because it reduces possible cracking through the paint, through the body filler in the future. Luckily, with the panels being welded in, with them being brand new, it actually does stiffen the front end of the chassis of the car, because there is more metal in the front of the car, and it does connect more of the edges of the engine bay. So that's really nice. It should be more rigid and be a little bit of a difference from factory. Hey guys, it has been weeks and weeks of lots of sanding, and I kind of skipped over the body filler process, but here I am. I have not sprayed any of the primer yet, which the compressor might come on, but everything's sanded. I use the tack cloth, and for body filler, I use stuff from Harbor Freight, but it is 3M product, even though it's from Harbor Freight, so I've been using this. Very, very easy. You just mix it up with like a little spatula of any kind, smear it on the car. And then I was sanding with a lot of 80 grit and then a lot of 120 grit onto getting as smooth as a body as possible on the engine bay. And I already masked the entire thing up. Then I went to my local paint store, bought this high-tech primer, which is like a 1K primer, but they said it's kind of like an all-in-one, which I got really confused with all the different epoxies, polyurethane, primers, and all that. So this is a primer and sealer in one, and it is also white. So I'm going to be lazy and not mask off the undercarriage job I did, and I'm just going to spray white everywhere and then white paint on top, which I ended up getting a diamond pearl white for the engine bay, which I think will look great and complement the sparkly blue. But anyways, I do have a paint gun from when I was in school. It is the HVLP gravity spray gun, and I put it all together with the proper needle nozzles, and I did buy this because I lost that, and it works great. And the pressure is about 50. I think I have to turn that down actually to around like 30 PSI. I always check the data sheet on every single paint that I'm spraying. So this is what the engine bay looks like with the body filler. Since these panels are completely new and welded in, I kind of put body filler in the edges to do as minimal as possible and just clean it up from where I ground down the welds. And then this was a little wonky from where I took off the brackets, and I just smoothed out these areas. That I also put new panels on, but this is the tack cloth. It gets my hands sticky. I just do this to pick up all the contaminants on the paint before spraying. I don't know if it really matters that much for primer, but I'm very particular with everything I do. Masked off all the areas, and I think we will be good to spray.
The year is 1991. Birds and people are living together in seemingly perfect harmony, until one day a young man catches fire. This is Phoenix.
You've been knocked down and got up again. In a corner, you're surrounded, no defenders. You've hid your fury and kept it in. But it's time now, you ignite and turn to embers. Like a phoenix, you burst in a fire burn. A thirst and desire, you transform right up in a flash. You spread your wings to rise from the ashes. Phoenix, you burst in a fire burn. A thirst and desire, you transform right up in a flash. You spread your wings to rise from the ashes.
Get ready for verse 2, Electric Boogaloo.
You see the truth behind the veil, and you know that they're just looking for attention. Oh, you don't let the ruthlessness prevail. Oh, it's time now, light your fires for ascension. Like a phoenix, you burst in a fire burn. A thirst and desire, you transform right up in a flash. You spread your wings to rise from the ashes. Phoenix, you burst in a fire burn. A thirst and desire, you transform right up in a flash. You spread your wings to rise from the ashes.
So I finished the entire engine shave process. The paint has been curing for now 2 weeks. So now I'm gonna get in the engine bay. I put in the mock block just to see how everything fits. I got these from Garagistic, which I am very excited for. I have the E30 BMW heater delete plug. Oof, and these are actually pretty heavy. They're really, really good quality. I have the E30 AC delete plug, which these kind of look all similar. This one's gonna go back in there. You can see the little holes in the engine bay, and they are absolutely the perfect size to fit and cover these areas. Last but not least, I have 2 of the E30 clutch firewall delete plugs. And these ones are tiny and go on the driver's side of the firewall, so. Okay, and these are simple little black plugs. Now you do have the option to weld metal in each of those holes, but I do want to have some options in the future if I have to add things or run lines through those holes, so it's just easier to have nice little plugs. And these are amazing quality, and I personally don't think it looks bad or any worse than shaving the entire firewall, because these holes, we might need them in the future again. So. And it saves me plenty of hours and body work as well. Now, if you have a stock car and you're simply just deleting your AC, you can also just get the AC delete plug and use that so no water gets into the cabin, which is really nice. So there's a lot of different uses for these. These I just simply undid the little tiny bolts And they are 2 pieces. So the one with the bolts goes on the inside of the car, and the one with the logo or the flat face goes on the firewall side. And this does have little grooves on the edges, so it should just sit in place. So I believe you would be able to do this by yourself. I don't have glass, so it's really nice. I can wrap my arm around it. You could probably even open your door and wrap your arm around it. It just sits itself right in there really, really nicely. Now I gotta get in the car and tighten all the bolts and everything from the other side. It's kind of tough to see because it's like in its tiny little corner in here, but I'm just taking these and simply tightening them into the holes. It is hard to hold both. It's nice to have 2 people for this because it does move around because we're on an angled surface. If the surface that you're putting these on is like super messed up or rusted, it will mess with how the product is sitting on the panel, obviously. It's all dependent on the quality of the panel. The hole where our heater core is, it's like nearly perfect. This one is a little beat up for some reason, probably from whoever did the S50 swap before us. So just heads up on that, make sure the panel is prepped properly and any rust or chaos on it is taken away and fixed and banged out to be as flush as possible. This one might be easier because it's literally straight up and down. Yay. Does it look good from that side?
Oh yeah.
Now for these little guys. Guys, I'm so happy with how this engine bay turned out. I think for the end result, once the engine and the entire build is done, having a clean engine bay completely sets this build apart from all the other cars in the lot or at the show. This is the extra work that people don't take. I mean, it's a lot of work. It took me like 2 months to do this, which is why I'm behind on videos. I have been working away and it is a very messy job. I even had to go to the hospital for my eye because I got metal in my eye when I was grinding down the welds in the engine bay. That was a bummer and it took me out for a week, but my eyes are good, so it's nice I can see again. Thank goodness. I was wearing safety gear the entire time. I highly recommend wearing safety gear through this entire process. If you guys have any questions down below about the painting, prep, welding, preparation process, please leave them in the comments down below. I will be happy to answer any of your guys' questions on this. I had a blast doing this. It's nice and relaxing. You can listen to some tunes and just get at it. I hope you all have an amazing day or night, whatever time it is, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.